Hey there, my sweet friends. I hope you are all doing well. Welcome to day 7 of our 12 Days of Christmas in July series. If you're just joining in, you can find the link to the first 6 days at the top of the description so you can get caught up. And if you're new around here, I hope you will consider joining my crafty little family by hitting the subscribe button. Don't forget to listen for the question of the day. Today's project is another special request from the peeps for sweet and simple greeting cards, which you all know I struggle with because I really lean into all the dimensional embellishments to add the details for my cards. But I'm going to work through that challenge for my peeps because I love you all so much. And I'm working with a paper pad from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to share with you something I really love about the paper pad and one thing I really don't like so much. So if that sounds good to you, then stick around and we'll make it together. Okay, here's that paper pad that I mentioned. I did get this from Hobby Lobby, and it has a nice variety of very festive images here in pattern paper. So I'm going to share the one thing that I really love about this collection is that it has many of the images on a white background. So I was able to go in and fussy cut around those and essentially make my own ephemera. So you can see there are so many snowmen on here. You're going to get a lot of fussy cut images. I also cut the sentiments out for that because it was a nice extra layering element. I was able to cut out these poinsettia swags as well. And so that is another fun detail to add. And there were also some trees for the background. So there was a lot of different elements that I can layer to create similar but different looking card. Now I'm going to share one thing that I didn't really love about this paper pad. There were not a lot of variety of scale. And so I think the secret to mixing patterns is to change the scale of them. For instance, this red one has a very non-contrasting all over pattern, so it's really good for layering. But many of the other ones are so busy that I did struggle a little bit to figure out how I could stack them without them looking way too busy. And so ultimately I decided to pull 4 patterns out of this paper pad, and there are so many left in here that I'll be able to work with this for quite a while. Now this is single-sided paper, and actually for the sweet and simple style cards, this is nice because you don't add a lot of extra weight. So if you're putting this through the mail, the standard size cards will fit in a regular envelope. It may require a small amount of extra postage, but they will fit well into a regular size envelope. I decided to make all standard size greeting cards for this video as well. And I am finishing inside with my pattern paper. So this is 5 by 6.5. And my intention is not to have a lot of measurements in this video, but more inspire you to stack your patterns and bring in your standard dies that you normally would be using all throughout the year so that you can get extra mileage out of them. So one of the things that I think is so important when mixing and matching patterns is to use solid color borders. So I'm going to do that throughout, and I've picked green for this. I'm going to use it for all 3 of my cards. Sometimes you may need an additional layer of white because the green on here wasn't really contrasting enough to show this as a layering inset. So I did put my green border, but also a white border. And now you can see how it does look like a definite layering pattern. So even though these are fairly similar in scale, I was able to get them separated. And I thought it would be fun to add a little envelope here that I could put a tag in. So the only measurement I have for you today is for this little envelope because I think it fits so perfectly onto this card front. And so I started with my pattern paper cut to be 5 3/4 by 5 3/4, and it was scored at 2 5/8, and I punched it with my envelope punch board. Now this is not necessary, you could just create a little pocket, but I thought it was a nice detail. And to finish the inside, I just lined it with the additional pattern and then clipped off the excess so that I could fold it up. So I want to adhere this closer to the side and the top because I have some additional layers that I want to add. So of course I'm going to bring in that tag, and I did finish that by creating a reinforcing dot there and punching a hole. This is just some pretty metallic gold paper that I was able to use, so it's a little bit extra festive, and I'm just going to add that here coming out of my pocket, and you see how that would look closed up. So one of the basic shape dies that I'm going to bring in is this doily, and really the purpose of this is to break up some of those busy paper patterns and neutralize them so that my focal images really pop. Now, previously I was filming on a DSLR camera, and I could take a picture of the arrangement and then work from that so I would know where each of the items were supposed to go. But now I'm filming on my new phone, and so this is probably going to be a surprise to all of us where all these pieces wind up. One of the elements that I'm going to use throughout all three cards is just a die cut star. And I think this is just a nice way not only to bring a little bit of detail, but some sparkle as well. So I'm going to add these here to kind of anchor the corners. And then here is that sweet little snowman. And so I did fussy cut that around and left the white border. I'm going to go a little bit higher than center because I want to add some additional details here. And so this is all going to be applied with my double-sided adhesive tape. There's no dimensional elements here so that it will fit well into the envelope. So here is that floral, and I'm just going to adhere that, cover up a little bit of the snowman and the star, and then I'll bring in my sentiment, and that was just as easy to clip out using the leaving the white border showing. So I'm gonna probably move this star in a little bit. Okay, so that's it for card one, and I was able to get a lot of layers on here and build in a lot of detail. So I think this is really going to be nice for a sweet and simple style card. Okay, we're working on card number 2 now, and I have finished the inside with the coordinating pattern paper, and I'm just going to build on the cover. So you will notice as I'm working along that I'm using the same patterns, but just in a different order so that I can better use that paper and not waste it and put it into the offcuts. And I will get similar but different looks for my cards as well. So you will notice that as I work along, things are going to be in a different place. Okay, so I'm still going to use that sweet snowflake pattern as my inset. This time, that pattern in the back was not so busy that it needed an additional layer of white. So now I want to bring the red in. Instead of an envelope on this card, it's just going to be a layering pattern. And then the plaid from the background of the last card becomes a die cut. So this is just a fishtail banner shape, and I'm going to layer this under the finishing details. So I've got my same doily here. And star. As I work along, this is a great time for the question of the day because it is relevant to what we're using to create with today. Would you rather work with a paper pad or single sheets? So I think I would probably always choose a collection because I know that all of the bits are designed to work together, and you'll most likely get a sticker sheet. But if I had to choose between the paper pad and the single sheets, I would probably pick the paper pad because it's a better value. And even though you're going to wind up with some sheets, even though you're going to wind up with some patterns that you don't really love, I think overall most of them are going to be usable. And so I would probably pick a paper pad. So let me know what it is that you would probably work with for your holiday crafting. So here's card number 2. So now we're going to work on card 3, and you will notice once again I have changed the order for my patterns to go in so that I can utilize as much of it as possible. So now my snowflake is my background, and instead of bringing in an inset section, I'm going to utilize my basic shape dies again to create some larger dovetail or fishtails. And this banner section also has a stitch detail, which is kind of nice when you're just adding flat layers and hoping for a lot of detail. So I'm going to put this on with just white for my border to break that up. And then I have a second smaller one. So I'm just using a nested set so that I can bring each of these details down to a different size and get some more layering. Back to our doily. This is so important for breaking up busy paper patterns. As I work along, I will mention that I think this is probably a really good take-along craft because you don't need all the fancy glues and the glue gun and the embellishment bins. You can just take your paper pad and a paper trimmer and some scissors to fussy cut your images. So this would be great if you're going away and you just want to have a little something creative to do. Also, I think this would be nice for prepping, and some younger people could use the different details and help to create their own cards, which I think would be really a sweet and fun activity to do. Maybe you got some grandkids to work with, and so I think this would be fun to do that with them. So I'm going to continue to work along and add all of these details. And I've got one more star. This kind of helps to balance when you add similar elements from one side to the other. So here is my sentiment, and my final star goes over there. So that is card 3. So here are the 3 cards finished, and you can see just by changing the order of how we put these different layers on, we were able to get a lot of use out of our pattern paper and create our own ephemera, which is actually a really great budget saving tip for batch crafting. When you want to make a lot of cards, you can create those images just by fussy cutting them out. So we've got 3 different looks here, and we have created cards that will fit easily into standard size envelopes. So that's it for day 7 of our 12 Days of Christmas series. Don't forget to come back tomorrow for day 8. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to let me know in the comments and give me a big thumbs up for this tutorial. If you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. And remember, you can find links to all our socials, as well as the products I mentioned in this video in the description below. As always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye.